everyone. Thank you very much for joining in. This is Hamas Siddiqui, your host in today's session. I bring in interesting guests who talk about career development, future of jobs, how do we build ourselves in the job market, what is happening around us. There are so many things that we miss out, which means we miss out on opportunities. I'm based in Canada and I coach people how they can use LinkedIn effectively. And this is a feature that I bring in every Thursday. And every Thursday, we have a new guest, a new topic. But for the past 2 weeks, I'm bringing in Muhammad Faisal, who is the founder of Nafi, which is one of the top e-learning platform for emerging technologies around the globe. And this platform is available in several languages. The course is available in several languages. And my courses are also available in that platform. And the focus is how technology is changing the future of work. And with this focus, we discussed, like in the past session, we discussed about blockchain and the opportunities um, in the blockchain sector industry globally, and how people can grow in that industry. So thank you very much. I'm sure there are a lot of people joining in and will watch this video later on. So if you comment and tell me where are joining in from, I will mention your name. I will actually post your name right in front of the screen so other people would see you as well. So tell us where are you joining in from, and please ask questions during the session. Um, I'm sure Faisal Bhai will be happy to answer those questions. And without any further ado, I will bring in Muhammad Faisal online. There you go. Assalamu alaikum, Faisal Bhai.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Thank you
How
very
are
much.
you?
Better weather today. At least it's sunny for us. It's still pretty cold. Hopefully, temperatures will improve in the next couple of days, and we
Good.
will start enjoying our late spring. Um, uh, Now, as we all discussed, that there are phenomenal opportunities being created in the emerging technology sector across the globe. I picked up a couple of statistics which I would actually like to pick your brain on and start building the discussion today on three areas or three sectors within the career anybody can really look at. So what I found out that growth for data scientists is 59% or projected at 59% globally. DevOps 117%, and machine learning 449%. Just these three smaller component of a bigger ecosystem. And if we work all this down, this comes to about more than 600% increase in the opportunities in the marketplace. How do you see these opportunities? What are some of the things that people should be looking at? Just address these two questions, and then we'll go further. And I'm sure there will be more questions coming our way.
So before I start, the topic today is global, growing global job opportunities during conflicts, right? The
Yes.
data that you read was prior to the conflict, but the data, that we will see in 2022 and beyond, that is going to expedite the global job opportunities on steroids. What this means is that, data science, uh, DevOps, big data. I mean, in every part, like throughout the world, like in every country, there are organizations. They're gathering data, right? Um, and this is like you can say, in every industry, in every organizations, they have like huge amount of data being gathered in different silos, so on and so forth. For the past 15, 20 years, the organizations have realized the value of that data, right? However, now organizations, what they're doing is whatever they do, there's one primary purpose. The purpose is this is the organization, this is the customer. They want to be live close to the customer, as close as possible. So the organization is here and the customer is here. The organization wants to be as close to the customer so that they can keep on providing them services, right? That's the first context we have to understand, because data science, big data, DevOps doesn't work in thin air. Organizations, they don't like to spend money for the sake of spending money. No. Artificial intelligence, all of these different solutions, they do it for expanding their business, for expanding their services, so on and so forth, right? So what is happening is that, like, because of the global conflicts, and specifically the Russian and the Ukrainian conflicts, which is becoming complex day by day, and more, you know, countries are jumping, they're deciding which camp they want to go in. One thing has been decided, that uh, the European Union, the North America, the South America, all of these countries, they've realized one thing is that they have to go through a digital transformation, right? Where they have to digitally transform their economies to be more independent from the outside vectors, right? As much as possible. And these three technologies, or I would say complementary technologies, data science, big data, DevOps, and others as well, they are simply sub, you know, expediting their journey towards going to that pathway, right? So that is why there are more job opportunities. As per the World Economic Forum report, uh, in 2022, by the end of 2022, there will be a reduction of more than 85 million jobs throughout the world globally, and 97 million new jobs will be created. And the technologies that you just mentioned, they hold around 30% of the job market out of that 100 million roughly, right? So 30 million jobs, they are pretty much in these three sectors.
Right. So that's like 30 million is a big number. Do we have enough? Well, how much resources or human resources do we have to meet this demand? Any idea?
Well, yesterday I had a very good, you know, discussion topic. It was a Nafi, the organization that we established, versus Netflix. What is happening around the world, right? One of the things that we have noticed is, and this is a fact, and you can find these different reports on different think tanks, Statistica, World Economic Forum report, different think tanks, and what they do is, like, the economists and all these different organizations, they gather data to see the labor market. What is happening within the labor market. Right? So the labor market for the U.S., they release these black books, beige book, different kinds of books, like coming out of the Federal Reserve. It holds a lot of data. If you look at the data, we will realize that the talent is severely lacking within the industry. One of the reasons is that the universities are preparing graduates, and the job market is here, but the difference is so huge, so large, that the graduates cannot go into the job markets, because the universities, the graduates that they're creating, they're not prepared to work within the industry, right? So there's a complete dichotomy of what is happening. However, uh, European Union, North America, South America, specifically the G20 countries and beyond, they have realized this, that the next most precious commodity after data is known as the as, as the digital oil nowadays, is basically talented workforce, right? So that there's a huge shortage behind for this. Excuse me. And the gap year over year, the compound annual growth rate through which, like, these jobs are growing up, is more than 50%. Uh, and the talent is not there. The talent is not there because the universities are not creating that the colleges are not creating that kind of talent, and there's a complete dichotomy. And one of the reasons is just like the universities and colleges are still teaching the traditional stuff, when in fact the industry has evolved and digitally transformed itself so much that they are now at least 15 to 20 years ahead of the universities, right? Like, globally, throughout all the universities. I'm not specifically talking about Stanford, MIT, Harvard, right? Those are the guys who create investment bankers rather than the engineers, I would say, right? So, I mean, there's a huge shortage. I would say, like to give you an example, in North America alone, like in the U.S. And in Brazil, uh, 500,000 jobs are unfilled in cybersecurity. More than a million jobs are unfilled in data science. In DevOps, the number is very big. In blockchain, the number is huge. So they need the talent, they don't have the talent. And this is where the interesting vector comes in, that they're opening and loosening up their immigration policies to invite the talent, like the European Union is doing that. Just 3 days ago, one of my students, he left Pakistan and he went to Germany to study. He was studying on our platform. He studied for 4 months on our platform, did all the courses, and he's still doing it. And he got a 50,000, 57,000 euro per annum job, right? Many of the students are working on $100,000, $150,000, £80,000 in UK. The reason is that they're able to secure these jobs by just understanding and learning the job description. And this is, that's the key to be available within the job market in the next 3 to 6 months time.
Right. So again, what I was thinking is that while you were saying that, of course, 600,000 or half a million jobs only in one sector, cybersecurity, are still vacant in the U.S. And U.S. within U.S. well globally, but in U.S. the cyber threats are increasing rapidly as well. Um, and all these things are like intertwined, right? All these technologies are intertwined, and you cannot have one technology available and not the other one available, because then the system won't work. I mean, similarly, when we spoke about blockchain like last 2 weeks ago, there are so many like missing element in the whole ecosystem that needs to come together. Now, my question would be, of course, they are loosening up the immigration, like, we G20 countries, even US and Canada and Australia and New Zealand, they all are looking for technology people, more and more technology people to come in and fill in the gap. But the gap itself cannot only be filled with existing resources that we have. Because, if this talent moves out of their home countries and move to these developed economies, then a bigger gap will be created in economies from where they will be moving out. So if somebody
Right.
moves out of India, or maybe like leaving a job in Qatar or Dubai or Saudi or Malaysia or Pakistan, that actually the job is still there, right? The job, it is not gap filled. I would say it is gap even widened. In that scenario, what is some so if somebody who is maybe an accountant, for instance, and that accountant is interested in exploring opportunities within the emerging technology field. Now, one of the things that although a lot of accountants now know ERPs and they work on ERPs and stuff, but of course, emerging technology is a little bit more advanced. Well, not little bit, lot more advanced. Now, how would an accountant uh, take this as a pathway to a career move or career pivoting?
So, so it's a two-part question that you asked me, that what happens like if someone leaves their own country and they go to a developed nation where the jobs are, right? So one of the things that we have to understand is that, so there are two kinds of groups on the global stage. One is that, one camp is, it can be classified as developing countries, right? The Which is like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and all these. And then the other one is like, if you talk about the G20 itself and other countries as well, they are classified as, because the global GDP of 100 trillion, 85 trillion is locked into the G20 countries alone, which is like, European Union, which is a mixed bag of countries, and then other 19, right? Russia can be taken out because they are kicking it out of the G20, so it'll be now G19, which is a bad move. They should not do it, but they're pushing it anyway. So uh, we have to understand a couple of things. Uh, yes, there's a brain drain going on from these developing nations over to the developed nations, right? So they are sending talent from one place to another place. But then, if you look back and see, you won't find any technology implementation in countries like India, right? Uh, because of various challenges in Pakistan and in Bangladesh and Nepal and the South Asian countries, and and the Asia Pacific is pretty advanced. So Just like Ukraine is known as the, the one of the bread basket of the world because they provide almost 18 to 20% of the wheat globally, something in those lines. Um, these South Asian countries are classified, and the South American countries are classified as the labor basket, right? In terms of providing talent to around the world. Right? So you can see the North Americans, they get the labor and the talent from South America, from Latin America, going over there. From Europe and Middle East, they get the talent coming from the Asia Pacific, from South Asia, right? So yes, there's a brain drain going on, but then that is compensated by uh, in these countries through foreign exchange, right? So when someone goes out, they always send some money back home, right? And for example, if you look into it, India receives almost 50 to $100 billion in, in remittance, in foreign remittance, right? So that's how they're developing their countries. But obviously, uh, applying these digital transformation technologies will make a huge impact in their own in digitally transforming their own societies and their own economies, their own sectors, agriculture sector and different sectors. But because of the corruption and many other issues and political climate issues and whatnot, that is not happening. So yes, there's a constant brain drain going on, and people are leaving, but then they're sending some money, which compensate on few aspects. The other you mentioned, what is happening on the global landscape. You mentioned chartered accountancy. I always, I've been, I mean, if you guys don't know, I also studied chartered accountancy, but I left chartered accountancy, and uh, and I went and did my master's, and that was 22 years ago. So, and I went into cybersecurity, governance, risk and compliance, and digital transformation, DevOps, and all these kinds of disciplines. Right? Did became a CIO, CISO, CSO. So one of the things I can mention, I can clearly state that with confidence because I've been sitting with, as a partner with PwC and many other large organizations. I can tell you with confidence is that chartered accountancy is a dying discipline. The reason is because of these emerging technologies. Uh, you know, Whatever they used to do, because all of these big four firms, they rely heavily on their auditing, fee, right? Their financial statements auditing fee and stuff like that. Because of the blockchain and different technologies, uh, those things are reducing significantly. Those things are reducing significantly, right? So what is happening is just like any of these disciplines, no matter like, yes, chartered accountant will always be there. But if the chartered accountant doesn't know big data, data science, blockchain, and stuff like that, then he will become irrelevant and a new chartered accountant will replace him. And there's a lot of research done by ICAW, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales, the AICPA, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. These are the two major organizations throughout the world which have the biggest number of members. So you will find that they're already promoting and advocating to their members to go in and learn these technologies, right? Because that's how the future is going towards. So essentially, uh, people who are living in around the world in whatever they're doing, if they do not adopt these technologies, they will become irrelevant in the next 5, 10 years. Because just by the end of this year, 85 million jobs will disappear. I'm not saying that. World Economic Forum is saying that. Just go online and search 85 million jobs, disappearing from the, from the global economy. Chartered accountancy is mentioned. Is mentioned on the second or third number, so you can see. So which is very alarming, right? But if you are a chartered accountant and you know blockchain and data science and big data and DevOps, then you can absolutely work within that industry and be relevant.
Be relevant. That's the key. If we are not relevant, and if we are not targeting, we don't exist. We will fail to exist in the job market, and that is basically for literally not only for the job market, but if you're not relevant to your family, you don't exist. If you are not relevant to your education, you don't exist. If you are not relevant to your business, you don't exist. So great. So we have a question from Adil Shahid, and the question is, please compare different technologies and how do you see them in the future as well? I think you've already addressed the second part of this question, but if you could take the first part of this question, like, I know it's going to be, it cannot be covered in a short description, but whatever best you can like uh, do, just give it a shot.
So PISA is one of the organization, and what they do is like they go in different countries and they assess how many people can speak English. They have these common parameters through which they measure literacy, right? How many speak people in a given country can speak English. That's one of the meters that they use. Then physics and mathematics, if they teach learning their own languages, whatever the case is, right? So they check the literacy rate. It comes, so, and the same thing is done by World Bank and World Economic Organization, World Economic Forum, and different other think tanks, right? What they do, is like they have recently added in the past few years a new perimeter in there. How many people know how to code, right? So if you don't know how to code, you are, I would say, digitally you can be classified as illiterate, I would say. This is, I'm not saying that, they're saying it. And with you won't be able to perform well within the industry. So one of the things that they keep on mentioning is basically a couple of languages, and Python is one of them. So
Mhm.
in today's world, you really have to understand a couple of things. Is that the technologies, they will keep on coming with new things, new factors, um, new solutions, new technologies, new services. But one of the key, there are a couple of five key elements. The five key elements are, in all of them, is basically you need to understand the industry, you need to understand and work in the GRC side. Then the other aspect is basically you need to understand the DevOps, which is like developing applications, right, within the cloud. You need to know how to work on the blockchain side, both public and private. You need to know how to work within the big data and artificial intelligence. So these five areas, they become the founding block. And you don't have to do it all in one year. You can't do it, but you can start with it, and every year you can pick up one area and you can master it, right? So if you do that for the next 20 years, you will be very relevant within the organization and globally on the landscape. And this will give you the local mobility, the national mobility, and also the global mobility in terms of working wherever you want to work, right? So these five key areas needs to be taken care of. If you do that, that is something that how you can safeguard yourself.
Amazing. And oops, Russell, why are you
Yes,
there?
go ahead.
Yeah. All
Yeah, yeah,
right.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. All right. So the next question we have uh, is is this again from Adil? DevOps, data science, and ML, machine language, I think.
So DevOps versus data science versus ML. Well, everyone should know DevOps. If they really want to be relevant within their organizations, they should know DevOps. And DevOps is essentially, in today's age, everything works through APIs. So through these APIs, you can access any application within the cloud. So you don't have to manage application. You don't have to create different systems. You can provision systems. You can provision applications, services, all of those things through a simple programmable interface (API), right? Application programmable interface, as we call it. If you really want to know how to do these things, DevOps is the first step. I always put a lot of stress on DevOps. DevOps will teach you how to code. DevOps will teach you how to work within the cloud. DevOps will teach you, if you know DevOps and you understand the methodologies and all those things, with respect to studying in the context of a business, not like going in and just becoming a data scientist or, I just want to do a data science, right? I'm going to do a master's in data science. You will still be unemployed. I have many students who graduated from Oxford, you know, Cambridge, Coventry, Staffordshire, like some of the top universities in UK and US, and they are still basically jobless. The reason is because they're just doing degrees. You have to understand the industry, and this is why when we designed this platform, we said, you know what, teach the job description. So we go online every month. We see what is the new tool that is coming in, what is the new language that is coming into the industry. And every month we keep on copying these projects because the job description tells you what the organizations are looking for. And if you know that, you can be relevant, right? So study DevOps. That's the first step. If you know DevOps, if you understand those things along with all the standards and everything, then you can work in machine learning, you can work in data science, you can work in big data, you can work in artificial intelligence, you can work in blockchain. I mean, essentially, you will be able to work any industry you want to, right? So DevOps is the first foundation block versus ML versus big data versus data science, versus AI. These are all four connected, and this is a separate topic to discuss which one supports which one. AI relies on data science, on machine learning, and big data. So that's a different separate topic to have a separate discussion on, right? So I can't. I mean, it requires a very long answer. But you can imagine there's a brain, there's a heart, there's lungs, and you need the data flow within the body as well. So imagine that's AI, big data, machine learning, and data science, essentially.
Superb. So, Adil, I'm sure you have had. I would still think it's quite a detailed response for anyone who is already learning uh, at least one of those three, four things to understand what the scope would be going forward. So let's talk about a bit of things that Al Nafi is doing, Fazal bhai. We know that there's a market, we know there are opportunities, we know people can avail those opportunities. Uh, but I'm sure a lot of people who are actually watching now and will watch this session pre-recorded later on would like to understand. And this is one thing that we'll keep talking like in the future sessions also. Uh, what is Al Nafe doing to facilitate these people who are interested in building their careers, building their futures in the emerging technology sector? What are some of the things that they should be looking at, when they're if they're looking for courses for, I mean, the uniqueness that Al Nafe has, that your labs are one of the best labs. I'm told that no other e-learning platform have these kind of labs available. The ease of payment, the accessibility, the team that you have. uh, Given all that, what are like three or four major things that Al Nafi is doing to deal with the situation where there's a job, there's a demand in the market, there's a shortage of human resource, and there are people willing to learn. Now, what is I mean, how are you kind of trying to bridge these three, four things?
So when I was in Stanford University back in 2008, I was sitting in my class, and the one of the presenter over there, he was an Egyptian guy, and he came from NASA, and he was managing the NASA rover mission, right? So he was managing the whole rover project, and he was talking about like this is what we do, this is how we communicate, and he was talking about the methodologies of what they're doing, and he mentioned that we have created a platform where we interact and exchange ideas with all the scientists around the world because our people are working from different countries, and at that time, uh, all of these Ivy League universities were also working in terms of developing their own platform, right? So Stanford and MIT and Harvard and Princeton. So they were all thinking, okay, you know, uh, how can we? And their model was very different. They were thinking, how can we take this academic brick and mortar model over to you know, over on the internet so that we can expand our customer base, we can do this, we can do that. That was their, pure purpose, right? At that, when I was sitting there, because that's how the inception, the idea, I had this inception of this idea. I was sitting there and I was thinking, why should because I was looking in the class. The whole class was filled up with Caucasians, right? There was one Indian, and I was one of the only Muslim there. And I was thinking, like, what is the missing element? There's not too much diversity, right? Because when you bring in diversity, people from different uh, places of the world, they bring their own experiences, which is very important, right? So I was thinking, like one of the common element here is like everyone is speaking English. And if I need to understand, if this professor goes to some other country and he wants to explain this to them, they won't be able to understand anything, right? Because there's a learning curve of understanding and learning English. Yes, English is a global language spoken by almost 1.5 billion people in the world. Chinese is the second one spoken by almost 1 billion in the world. But people, you know, wherever they're living, there's always a certain, I would say, barriers in terms of like within the society through these languages, right? So I realized, what, let me think about creating a platform through which, we can teach everyone, first of all, not the academic stuff, but the job description, because at that time I was a CISO in US, right? A Chief Information Security Officer. And I used to interview many people like every month for different positions. And I used to see they had lots of degrees, but they didn't have any experience. And we were looking for trained people. And it was a very tiresome process. Like, we're looking for people, but we can't find them. And if we train them, it takes a long time, right? And then that person leaves, then we are back to square one, right? So I was thinking, what should we do? So that's how we created this platform with two things in mind. One is global accessibility. Everyone should be able to learn in their own languages. And yes, we did arrange English to be learned as a language, as a second language. If you want to do that, yes, you can do that, because we are investing and we are providing you more than 500 hours on an annual basis, where every week you have 10 hours to sit with live with a tutor who is a CELTA certified from Cambridge University who can teach you English, right? We're doing that. So, so the people can take their time. If you invest 500 hours online sitting with a teacher, conversing with them in English, that barrier will, you will pass over. But then you have to be at the job level, faster. And the only way you can do that is if I teach you the job description from day one. So if I teach you the job description from day one, you'll be there. But if not, then the curve will take a long time, right? So you learn English, this, right? So that's how we said, okay, it has to be a multilingual platform. So these are the two things that I decided. That's how we started, this platform. And long story short, I registered the company, started planning it out in 2008. Took me a long time. 2014, I registered a company. 2008, and then we started working on the content. How are we going to do it? What are we going to do it? What people are, what things we're going to teach, etc., etc. By that time, I was a CIO, right, in North America. And then I realized, what? In 2018, I left my job. I was earning significant salary. I left it, because I was already at the pinnacle of earning $1 million on an annual basis. I said, you know what, I'm going to leave it, and I'm going to go out and, because I was able to take that decision because of my financial circumstances, right? That allowed me to do so. I said, okay, I'm going to do that, and I invested my own money, and I started this platform. And when I did that, um, you know, in 2018, now in 2022, we have more than 300,000 enrollments from more than 200 countries and territories. People are coming from all over the world, joining us. And my goal was to become, as I call it, as I was having a discussion yesterday, was being the Netflix of education. Like globally, right now, people are spending almost 1.5 to 2 hours a day watching Netflix. It may give you some dopamine relaxation if that is your relaxation of watching television or streaming services and whatnot, but that's not going to put bread on the table. That's not going to support you. That's not going to change your circumstances. And one of the reasons that we did was just like, we want to become the Netflix of education and employment globally. So anyone who's in China, Turkey, whoever speaks Spanish, Portuguese, English, Russian, right, Mandarin, uh, Swahili, whatever languages they speak, right? So we picked up, out of 200 languages, we picked up 70 languages, so which are spoken by 7 billion people out of 7.9 billion people. Because we said, you know what, this is our limit. We can't go and cover everything. But yes, and that's how we utilize technology, artificial intelligence, neural networks to start doing that. So, long story short, now we have students coming from all over the world, and they study, they work hard by spending. I tell them, like, look, if you spend 2.5 hours every day with consistency for 3 months, you'll be sitting on a 45, 65, $70,000 job. That's the bare minimum. But people who are experienced, like they're experienced accountants, marketers, digital marketing, uh, engineers, chemical engineers, and different engineering disciplines, applied sciences, they are earning $100,000, $150,000, $200,000, and the reason is on an annual basis. The reason is they spend time, they spend, and this is what they're changing lives, right? We wanted to change lives because one thing is for sure is talent. If the West is thinking that the talent, or the European nations, you can say the EU, the North America, or the G20 countries, or globally, if you think about it, the only way, rather than giving people aid, right, and saying, this is what the aid is, this is no, uh, give them education, give them all the tools so that they can digitally transform themselves. I mean, if they want to do agricultural, they can utilize, a lot of data from the soil, from the weather, from all these kinds of different things, right? And they can make intelligent decisions. In the developing countries, there's lots of issues. One of them is corruption, right, which is very rampant. In the West, you don't see them. You see it, like, but in a different disguise. It comes in a different forms, right? However, education is one variable which is common, which is one common variable, right? No matter how you factor it, you will still see education as one of the things that can make change lives or break lives, right? So if you make that commonly available to everyone, people can take, you know, their own destiny, shaping their own destiny in their own hands, and they can do that. And that's why we started this up, and that is why we also have this program which we started last year. It's Qard al Hasana. In Islam, you know, interest is forbidden. We it is not allowed because interest creates uh, basically misery within the society. If you're not able to pay the debt, you will get into this burden of debt. It will keep on piling up, right? And that's how World Bank and all these different organizations, they twist the arms of these developing countries, right? In Islam, it is completely forbidden. So that's why we said, study now, pay later. There are people who are studying from African nations, from India, from different countries, right, around the world, and they can't pay. And we tell them, look, pay the minimum. If you can't pay the minimum, you can become our affiliate program. If you can't do any of those things, you can still study with us. But once you get a job, you can return it. So, but if something happens to you, we forgive. Right? So we forgive the loan. Like one of the person, he asked me, "What if I die? What will happen then?" And I said, "Well, if something happens to you, we forgive the loan because man الذي يقرض الله قرض الحسنة in Quran, Allah says, like, who is the one who can give a loan to me, to Allah, interest free, so that it can change people's lives, right? So we are doing this to change people's lives. We're not doing this for the sake of, like, and for monetary benefit, because many people, there are some very beautiful success stories. There's a person in Asia, and he was an ice cream maker. So he basically he said, like, I've been following you on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and these different platforms. I never knew about LinkedIn. I started knew about LinkedIn when I started following you. So I created my profile over there and stuff like that. But I wanted to study, but I never had the money to study. So you opened all those things for me, and he was working on $2 a day, $2 a day. That was his income. If I convert that as money, it will be less than $2 a day. So it took him 2 years to gather enough funds to have a PC, a desktop, right? He came to us. He said, "I want to apply for this interest-free loan." We said, "Yes, it's for you. It is available for you. Go ahead, you know, start learning." So he started learning on the platform where we are spending millions, right, in terms of the cloud labs, because we're using Amazon, IBM, GCP, Azure, all these major platforms, right? So we said, go ahead, use it. And this guy was crying. He said, like, I never even realized, you know, uh, what exactly, like in my life, that I would be able to go outside. Now I have this hope that one day I can go to UK and work there, right? That's one story. I have so many countless stories, like, right? One of the other stories I can tell you is just like this guy. He was earning $150 a month, and he took Qard al Hasana, interest-free loan, study now, pay later loan from us. Right? We gave it to him. In 3 months' time, he now got a job and now he's earning, I would say, in his own country, $750. So from 150 to 750. And I said, like, this is less. They should have been paying you 100,000 rupees, right? Or more than that. He said, like, you know what? I was so desperate for the job because I had 3 daughters. I said, whatever job I get, I will just grab it. So now he is now planning to move to 150,000 rupees job, right? So you can see this is how you change lives. We are now about to enter North America, like for the Latinos population, for South America, Central America. People here, they are regarded as, the most depressed class in the world. I don't see them depressed. I don't see them, uh, they are oppressed. They're not depressed, they're oppressed. People see them that they have no talent, they have nothing, they can only be farmers. Yes, they are farmers. Because I come from a family where everyone is a laborer, right? My mother is not educated. She belonged to a tribal society, but she was the one who taught us, how to study. And she used to sit with me with a stick and said, like, look, I can't give you anything except education. This is the only thing you can have. And long story short, you know her kids studied at MIT, Stanford, all the top universities, so on and so forth, right? So what matters is just like education can change lives, and that's why we started it. That's why we're teaching in multiple languages.
Superb. Now there is. I'm not sure who this person is because probably the profile is hidden. Uh, but this is the comment. If you can just quickly address this comment. But everyone cannot become a DevOps developer. Every single person got different aptitude. There's nothing wrong with it. Please.
Well, yes, he's right. If you believe that you can't become something, then you cannot become something,
Right.
right? It's your own shared belief. If you think that yes, you can do it, look, uh, I have people. This guy who is selling ice cream, right, on a cart. If he had this conviction, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to study this thing. I'm going to do that, and he's doing it. And if you're saying that I have, and you can type this good English in front of me and say, like, everyone has different aptitude, stuff like that. That means you are much more educated than him, because this guy, he can't even write proper English, but he's studying that. So let me tell you something. The people who are developing labs for us in under my supervision, you know, they have passed 10th grade, 12th grade, right, back home in their countries. And they were the most discarded people within the society. You know what they're doing? They have developed labs on AWS, on Amazon, sorry, on Azure, on IBM, on GCP, and they're working and managing complex infrastructure. So if they can do it, everyone can.
Everyone does. Absolutely.
You need
And
to have that. If you don't have that
mindset.
conviction, you can't do anything. Yes.
That mindset. And on that, I would like to take the liberty of sharing something that I wrote this morning. As you know, that I write at least one educational post, inspiring post, anything that I got inspired from on LinkedIn particularly. And the post says, formula for success keeps changing. 10 years ago, I did not know I would get over 50,000 followers on LinkedIn. I achieved that in 2022. 9 years ago, I did not have a clue about writing a book. In 2022, I have written so far three books and several short toolkits. Until 2006, I did not know I would train Women Business Association in 12 countries. By 2020, I actually did that. Until last year, I did not know I will produce online courses. In 2022, I have launched six online courses, of which three courses are on Al Nafe. So the
And they are
credit actually
available in
goes to you, Faisal
multiple
Bhai,
languages.
because you not only inspired me but encouraged me to develop my first online course, which I exclusively developed for Al Nafe students. Now I've got three different courses on LinkedIn. One is which is a pioneered course on Al Nafe, and there's one on another platform, and the third one is for supply chain professionals. Now people keep asking me on social media, what is the difference between the course on Al Nafe and the other course that you usually promote? And I say, okay, Al Nafe course is specifically designed for Al Nafe student. So these are the students who are in the emerging technology sector. They really need a very different type of guidance guidelines to get into the job market. So if you want to do it, nobody can stop you doing it, as simple as that. If Mohammed Faisal can create a global platform for emerging technology training, which is a huge market, a market size of over close to $400 billion by 2026, by the way, e-learning market size. If I could do it, and if my friend Matthias from Chile, Matthias, thanks for joining in. If he could do it sitting in Chile, I think the opportunities are for everyone. We have one more question before we close today's session. The question is a very good question from Adil. Say a few words for someone who is looking into doing IT exports. Few things to keep in mind before starting. Before Faisal bhai, you respond to it, let me just share my thinking. Uh, See, if you are not current, you are not relevant. Very simple, right? If you are not updated, you are not relevant. So one of somebody who follows me on Facebook sent me an inbox, and this company is a Pakistani IT exporter. They produce some kind of software and export. Somebody reached out to them from the US, and they asked, "Do you have a LinkedIn profile?" Now this gentleman never thought that LinkedIn is kind of an essential thing. You have to be current, as I said. And he didn't have one. He lost the contract. He reached out to me, and he then started asking questions. And I tried to help them and help this guy understand the importance, because people like to validate. People like to see you. There has to be a social persona. Uh, IT exports is a huge sector. And countries like India and Pakistan, India, of course, is much bigger. Pakistan is not far behind. But how can emerging technology, or people studying emerging technology, can benefit? So, I know consultants based in Canada, for instance. Some of them I know, they have a smaller marketing team based in Canada, and they have all the backend teams sitting somewhere else, and they're using that backend team to support their consulting business, and they're actually consulting with large banks for cybersecurity, for instance. So this is what my cents are, and I am not a technical person. Faisal Bhai is, he's in the market. Faisal Bhai, over to you.
So here's one of the things you have to understand. If I take globally, you can find a lot of data on Statistica regarding this, Adi. But understand this: if you look at two rivals, India and Pakistan, you will see that Pakistan IT exports on an annual basis is 3 billion, 3.2 billion, 4 billion, something like that, in that ballpark. If you search online, you will see. India, on the other hand, their IT exports is almost $150 billion. So in one country, it's 3 billion something. The other one is 150 billion. So it's like 10 times more, something like that, right? So you can imagine that what is the difference? Actually, the Indian IT export is equivalent to half of the GDP of Pakistan. So Pakistan GDP is 300 billion, it's 3, 400 something in that ballpark, right? So you can imagine it's half of it is like over there. So that's why India is much more mature in that aspect. Uh, Now, if you look into all of those things, uh, because of these IT exports, either you export applications or either you export services. Applications either can be front end, back end, middleware, whatever you create, or you can export consulting services. Because of the cloud, the whole global landscape is changing. The Indians have realized that. And they're working very hard in terms of making sure because we have a lot of students from India, and and what they're doing is like they are now going towards the digital transformation of companies from data centers over to the cloud, from their applications over to the cloud. So they are now assisting them. So India, half of the India IT exports come from services sector, consulting and services, right? So they are now helping organizations in North America, in around the world, in South America, in Europe, to move towards the cloud journey, right? Because the cloud is more secure, more scalable, there's more agility, and this is where DevOps comes in. So the DevOps, if you really want to think about IT exports, and your name is Adil Shahid, so I'm assuming you're from Pakistan, right? You will find that people in Pakistan, they only emphasize and focus on one thing, you know, what kind of back end services we can provide, what kind of this we can provide. And that is a dying discipline. They're dying. The industry is already going down because they're not spending time in terms of training their talent, right? So, because of the cloud and all these technologies, one thing is for sure that if you spend time in DevOps, you can create, or your own company and say, and attract that business from outside, from the North America, South America, G20, around the world, saying, you know what, we can provide you cloud migration services, we can provide you DevOps services, we can create applications for you quickly, faster, with much more agility. The go-to market, the GTM, which will be much more faster for you that we can do. This is what the Indians are doing, and they're infusing that with big data, data science, AI, blockchain, all these different technologies. On the contrary, the other countries are not doing that. Even Brazil is doing that. Even Mexico, because we are going in Mexico now, in Latin America, they're emphasizing and they are focusing, and but the problem is that like they want to do this, but they don't have the talent to back it up. That's why there's a huge global shortage of IT professionals in all of these emerging sciences, and Mexico and Brazil is not an exception, right? So they are there, but they're running short.
And you you actually ended it on a very interesting note, the shortage, and we have spoken about this shortage. Um, and as an economist, I know when there is a shortage of something, the price goes up. As simple as that. So there is a time, there is now, and the time is now that people are actually demanding more flexibility. IT professionals are demanding more flexibility, more perks, work from home, and these are the things that they are being offered because at least what pandemic has taught us is that human being can be trained and are very flexible in adopting the new environment. And one of my friends who is a very senior person in a recruitment company in Canada, uh, he actually offers me at times, of which I don't have time to look at, up to $2,000 for a referral. So if particularly in the IT field, so if he has a job available, and of course in Canada you're looking at a Canadian resident or a citizen or work permit holder, he would give me $2,000 for referral, and if the person gets the job. So that's the job market, and the shortage will remain. The opportunities will only grow, and there is no stopping in that. Millions of jobs are available. E-learning is the only way to fill the gap. and there is no other way. I know. I actually read a report by UN. That was like post-pandemic report in which they said that one of the mission UN has is to convert most of the curricula into e-learning platforms. And this is what Al Nafe is doing, and Al Nafe is ahead in the curve because not only you're teaching emerging technologies, you have already converted your content into so many other languages that are widely spoken across the globe. And that's the beauty, because you only can learn in your own language. You can learn another language also, like English, for instance. But if you're for instance Bengali, and if you're learning in Bengali, then you will learn faster, which means the faster means you will fill up the gap much faster as well. You will be in the job market much faster, and you will be bilingual anyways. So that's a great session. Conflicts will continue, and I hope and we pray that Ukraine conflict ends soon, and there is exit to this situation. But there will be more conflict across the globe. We have seen the Gulf War, we have seen the Afghanistan conflict, we have those who are at my age, you would still remember Cambodia and Vietnam issue. So the conflicts will continue, which means the opportunities will continue emerging. People will be looking for more opportunities. People will be looking for more technology savvy people who they could quickly take, train, and put them to work. Because there is no time. Literally, in the Canadian job market, first of all, you also that because you live here as well. 1 million jobs are available only in Ontario. Literally, I mean, you just walk into any mall, there are jobs available. And of course, there are different types of jobs. But you if you are there, and if you can speak English, you can do a bit of numbers, you get a job. If you know technology to a decent extent, you get a job. As simple as that. So फैज भाई बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपका. Let's come a little bit in Urdu and Hindi for those people who are, जो लोग इंडिया और पाकिस्तान से हमें देख रहे हैं, या दुबई, सऊदी अरब, कतर से देख रहे हैं और हिंदी और उर्दू बोलते हैं. आप लोगों के लिए भी ये एक बहुत बड़ी अपॉर्चुनिटी है. हमारे प्लेटफॉर्म पे, फैसल भाई के प्लेटफॉर्म पे, अलनाफे के ऊपर कोर्सेज जो हैं वो हिंदी और उर्दू में भी अवेलेबल हैं, इंग्लिश, सवाइली, फ्रेंच, अरबिक में भी अवेलेबल हैं. तो ये एक अपॉर्चुनिटी आप लोगों के लिए है लर्न करने की एंड ग्रो करने की. फैसल भाई, लास्ट वर्ड फ्रॉम यू, एंड we will again invite you in 2 weeks time, and we'll discuss something exciting at that time as well. But last word from you before we end the session.
So the last departing words are like, if you change your habits in terms of spending time where really, where it's productive, like learning and expanding your horizon, which can benefit you something. In this Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, there's a dua that he says, Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'a wa rizqan tayyiba wa amalan mutaqabbal, which means in Arabic, if I translate it in English, oh Allah, give me knowledge which is beneficial, through which I can earn, sustenance, and so that I can do good deeds, right? So knowledge which is beneficial. That's what Islam teaches us, right? So I'm a religious man. I always follow that. I've been like this since I was 15, 16, right? So uh, if you don't go for your knowledge which is not beneficial, uh, as I said, we want to become the Netflix of education in the world. Netflix is consumed by more than 250 million people around the world in terms of watching dramas and movies and stuff like that. And they're just burning their time. And then they're complaining, we can't find work, we can't do this, we can't do that, right? There are, as I said, in the next 5 years, every year there will be 100 million opportunities. So the world population is almost 8 billion, 7.98 billion right now, right? It will be 8 billion by the end of this year. If you look at the global, world population counter, it goes up and down. So it's right now it's 7.9. And there are more than 600 million opportunities every year. 100 million new opportunities are being created because of automation. So if you follow this, and if you can spend 3 hours, if you can spend 2 hours a day, that's great. Consume the content, practice. Consume the content, practice. Consume the content, practice. Then you build your resume. You put in your resume that you worked with us and all of these things, and then you apply, and then you get a job, right? So you will be able to not only work within your own countries, but you'll be able to have the local and the national mobility, but also the international mobility as well, if you want to do that. And because of the global conflicts, right, more and more opportunities will be creating, because now the whole European Union, specifically in the EU, because of this conflict which is happening over there, they are pushing themselves. Poland is going to be cut off from Russian gas, right? So they are claiming we have their reserves and everything, this and that, but they know they will get the pinch, because Russia alone provides more than 40 to 50% of gas, natural gas, and fuel to the whole EU, right? The major portion goes to Germany and France and all these different countries. So you can understand they have to push themselves towards automation, towards IoT, towards blockchain, towards DevOps and all these kinds of technologies, big data, so that they can take intelligent decisions and they can minimize like the consumption of their resources, right? So that they can conserve it and distribute it properly. And this is what is going to create the next cycle of jobs around the world globally. And because the global political landscape defines the global job landscape, right? Essentially it's directly proportional, right? If there's conflict, there will be jobs. Unfortunately, there's a lot of killing going on in Ukraine, and both sides are blaming each other. And the world powers are supporting, you know, a weaker player by arming them with weapons and everything, rather than sitting with them and saying, let's sit down together, stop the fighting, rather than they're just providing them weapons and weapons and weapons, right? So this is going to create more misery, because you can't win with Russians like this. You have to sit down on the table and discuss what needs to be done, so on and so forth, right? I hope that I would say that I pray that there's peace in Ukraine, and this whole war situation goes away. But as I said, conserve your time, spend your time in learning, expand your horizon, and go. And because remember this, you can change your, if you change your attitude, if you change your mindset, you can achieve anything. But you have to work hard for it. If you spend 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day for the next 3 6 months, you will be sitting on a 50, 60, $70,000 job quite easily. That's a low figure, I'm telling you. The high figure that our students are going in is $100,000. Australia, Sweden, Finland, Norway, Denmark, Germany, France. You name the countries, U.S., Canada. You name the countries, and I can show you our students, and they will be coming on the website, talking to the other subscribers as well. So, in, time is the most precious commodity. Again, I'm going to say, in my inspiration is from Quran, right? So in the Quran, Allah, uh, He basically swears by the time. Time is very important. He says like time is the most important commodity in the world, right? Whoever takes care of it, he will be successful, and whoever doesn't take care of it, he will be at loss. Right? So that's my departing word. Thank you, Hamad
Thank
Bhai.
you very much.
I'll
So,
see
the
you.
best investment you can make wherever you are, whatever situation you may be, is in your own selves. Um, that investment is essential. If you want to grow, if you want to be sustainable, if you want to, help our families and lead a good life, a comfortable life, invest in yourself. And time is always now. Don't think of tomorrow. Time is always now. If you don't invest today, somebody who's investing today will be ahead of you. Thank you very much, Fazlbhai, for your time. I'll end the stream, which will disconnect both of us. But anyways, thank you very much for really rewarding comments and input to this whole discussion.